Winter 2026 wasn't just another cold season, it was a record-shattering deep freeze that changed daily life for millions. A powerful polar vortex event, the strongest in 30 years, unleashed Arctic air far beyond its usual reach. Cities unaccustomed to such cold were suddenly blanketed in snow and ice, testing infrastructure and resilience. The culprit? A giant swirl of frigid air high above the Arctic, known as the Polar Vortex, broke apart and sent waves of cold southward. This wasn't a simple cold snap. It was a complex chain reaction in the atmosphere. For a brief moment, a warm tropical wave clashed with the Arctic air, but the cold soon returned, stronger than before. Homes, farms, and energy systems were pushed to their limits. The winter of 2026 became a wake-up call about how vulnerable we are to extreme weather. As we explore this event, we'll see how a disruption high above the Earth can ripple down to affect millions. What can we learn from this deep freeze to better prepare for the future? This is more than a story about weather. It's a story about adaptation and resilience. By understanding what happened, we can protect our communities from nature's surprises. Let's dive into the science and the human stories behind the winter that gripped the world. The polar vortex sounds dramatic, but it's a normal part of our planet's weather system. It's a massive, spinning pool of icy air high above the poles, acting like a fence that keeps the cold locked up north. When the vortex is strong, it keeps Arctic air contained, and winters in the US, Europe, and Asia are milder. But when it weakens or splits, that fence breaks down. Chunks of frigid air escape, plunging south and bringing bone-chilling cold and snow. The jet stream, which usually flows smoothly, becomes wavy and sluggish, guiding the cold air into new regions. These disruptions are what meteorologists mean when they talk about a polar vortex event. It's not a new storm, but a breakdown in the usual pattern, letting the coldest air on Earth spill south. The 2026 event was a textbook example of what happens when the polar vortex is severely disturbed. Our winter weather depends on the behavior of this swirling mass of air miles above our heads. Understanding the polar vortex is key to understanding extreme winter events. Let's see how it all unfolded. The deep freeze of 2026 began with a sudden, dramatic warming, not at ground level, but high in the stratosphere. In early February, scientists observed a sudden stratospheric warming (SSW) event. Temperatures over the Arctic soared by over 50 degrees Celsius in days. This rapid warming punched the polar vortex from above, shattering its structure and splitting it into two. With the vortex broken, Arctic air was free to spill south. One vortex core drifted toward North America, the other toward Siberia. The effects took a week or two to reach the surface, but forecasters saw the signs. A major cold outbreak was coming. The 2026 SSW was among the most powerful in decades, setting the stage for a historic winter. The chain reaction started high above, but its impact would soon be felt by millions below. The dominoes were falling, and the coldest air on Earth was on the move. This was the trigger for the winter's unforgettable deep freeze. Next, the Arctic air would descend on the United States. By mid-February, the polar vortex split unleashed a massive dome of Siberian air across North America. The Northeast and Great Lakes were hit hardest. Temperatures shattered records, plunging to -10 Fahrenheit or lower. Wind chills made it feel like -30. And the cold didn't let up for days. Snowstorms, fueled by the wavy jet stream, buried cities from Chicago to Boston. Lake-effect snow piled up in feet, and the relentless cold kept it from melting. The weather pattern became stuck, trapping the cold over the eastern U.S. for weeks. Travel ground to a halt, schools closed, and daily life was upended. Meteorologists warned the cold was here to stay. This was no ordinary winter. It was an Arctic siege. The sluggish jet stream allowed the cold to linger, with no quick relief in sight. Communities faced a true test of endurance. The deep freeze was relentless, reshaping the landscape and daily routines. The US hadn't seen a cold wave like this in decades. The 2026 polar vortex didn't stop at the northern states. It pushed deep into the American South. Florida, known for its warmth, woke to mornings in the 30s and 40s Fahrenheit. Citrus and strawberry farmers scrambled to protect crops from repeated frost and freeze. The cold was a shock. Floridians bundled up, heating demand soared, and beaches emptied. The chill lingered, with one cold front after another, keeping the region colder than normal for weeks. The South learned that even the Sunshine State isn't immune to Arctic air. The event was a powerful reminder. When the polar vortex breaks down, its reach is vast. The persistent cold tested energy grids and daily routines. For many, it was the coldest stretch in memory. The South's brush with Arctic air was a lesson in unexpected extremes. Just as the deep freeze seemed unbreakable, a tropical force intervened. The Madden-Julian Oscillation, MJO, a wave of clouds and pressure from the tropics, set up a high-pressure ridge over the U.S. This ridge acted as a temporary shield, blocking new Arctic air from reaching the ground. For a few days, temperatures rebounded. Some places even saw above normal warmth. It felt like winter had finally broken, but meteorologists knew it was only a pause. The frigid air pooled over western Canada, while the eastern U.S. enjoyed a brief thaw. This rare clash between polar and tropical forces showed how interconnected our climate is. The MJO's influence faded as it moved east, and the high-pressure shield weakened. The door reopened for Arctic air to surge south again. The temporary thaw was over. The deep freeze was set to return. This brief respite highlighted the complexity of global weather patterns. Even in the heart of winter, tropical forces can tip the balance, if only for a moment. The final act of the cold wave was about to begin. The warm-up was short-lived. By late February, the polar vortex's grip tightened once more. The cold returned to the U.S., especially the north and east, and intensified over western Canada. Spring's arrival was delayed, trees stayed bare, and snow kept falling. Meanwhile, Europe began to feel the effects as the displaced vortex core shifted east. Arctic air surged into northern and eastern Europe, bringing a late-season cold snap. The polar vortex disruption now spanned 2 continents. The cold lingered into early March, making for a long, challenging winter's end. The duration of the freeze was as remarkable as its intensity. Only by mid-March did winter finally begin to retreat, leaving a lasting mark. The winter of 2026 was historic for its intensity, duration, and far-reaching impacts. Prolonged cold-closed schools, disrupted travel, and strained mental and physical health. Energy demand soared, stressing power grids and driving up bills. Cities spent millions on snow removal and road safety. Agriculture suffered, southern crops faced frost, and northern fields saw delayed planting. The rare clash with the Madden-Julian Oscillation gave scientists a unique case study in atmospheric dynamics. The event highlighted our vulnerability to extreme weather and the complexity of forecasting. The 2026 polar vortex became a benchmark for future research and preparedness. Its lessons will shape how we respond to the next big freeze. The Great Polar Vortex event of 2026 left us with crucial lessons for the future. It exposed weaknesses in our infrastructure and energy systems, showing where we must improve. Early warnings from meteorologists gave communities time to prepare, proof of the value of science and communication. The event sparked debate about climate change and the links between a warming Arctic and polar vortex disruptions. As the climate shifts, such extreme events may become more common. The winter of 2026 was a test of resilience and community spirit. It reminded us to take weather warnings seriously and to plan for the unexpected. By learning from this deep freeze, we can build stronger, more prepared communities. The story of 2026 kubabwens wider. Golben Moderdane. Tinsei Inderau Entergate. Sakors and Barin Safo, Potboker Biding with the need. life-changing world. Whatever the next winter brings, we'll be ready, together.